Hi everybody, I wanted to do a video to go over how Desmos can help you on the EOC, because honestly, the way to make sure you get a good grade on the EOC is really just to not give up on a problem. And if it's an equation or an expression, or it's asking you to solve or simplify, or you think you can graph it, really the way through it is just to persevere and take your time and maybe plug in answer choices and maybe do a little guess and check. But really, if you can find different strategies and persevere through a problem, you're going to do really well on the EOC. But specifically, I would like to go over this assignment, the one that says EOC Desmos / calculator. It's a Google form. And I'm not going to go over every single problem. You can always email me and I'll make more videos. But I wanted to go over the first two sections specifically. So when you are looking for a solution, so number one, they've given us a function f of x, they've given us a function g of x, and they want to know when does 1/12 f of x equal g of x, and they've given us different answer choices. So what I've done in Desmos is I've graphed f of x, I've graphed g of x, and I honestly don't want to see either of those. What I want to see is where does 1/12 f of x equal g of x. So I actually am going to unclick the red one because I'm looking for when does 1/12 times f of x equal g of x. So if you remember, solutions are where they intersect. So I'm going to zoom out. That's the one thing that I kind of hate about Desmos. Did I write it right? Let me make sure 46x. I was like, there's supposed to be 3 solutions, so I don't need to zoom out. I just typed it in wrong. So whenever you're using the graph to solve equations, you're looking for where the two intersect. So all I did was type in the f of x they gave me, type in the g of x they gave me, and then I made a third line that said 1/12 f of x, and those are the two that I want to see where they intersect so I can find out where they equal each other. So -3, -1, and 2, which is option B. All right, question 2 is another, what is the solution? So I can graph the left side, I can graph the right side, and wherever they intersect is going to be the answer. Now these are all fraction forms, so I will have to figure out what one matches my decimal. So here I graphed the left side, here I graphed the right side, and I think honestly I typed this in wrong again. Let me double check. 2x minus 3 over x plus 1, x minus 1. I tried to have this typed in beforehand, but obviously that didn't work. 2x minus 3 over x minus 1, and 8x plus 1 over 4x plus 5. Okay, so now it's right. So now, look, I can see that they intersect right there. So that's 2.8. So all I have to do is figure out which one of these choices is 2.8. It's obviously not A or B. So 14/9. That's not the same, so it's got to be the other one. What was it, 14/5? 2.8. So that one is 2.8. So I just graph the left, graph the right, see where they intersect. That's how you solve every single equation with a graph. So that's how I could do number 3. Graph the left, graph the right, see where they intersect. Question 4, there's my equation. The 125 times 1.2 to the t power, I can graph that. Then I can graph 1,000. I'm going to have to zoom out quite a bit because 1,000 is very large, but it will give me a decimal wherever they intersect, and then I can just type those in and see which one is the same decimal. All right, you can also simplify expressions with addition, multiplication, division. Anytime it asks you to simplify, if it asks you to factor, if it asks you to find out which one is equivalent, you can find the answer by graphing the original and graphing the answer choices. The ones that are equivalent are going to make the same graph. The one that has been simplified is going to make the same graph. So you're going to have to graph the entire original problem all at once because it's an expression. When it's an equation, like the first couple were all equations, you want to do it as two separate. The left on its own, the right on its own. But when you're adding, subtracting, multiplying, or dividing, you want to type it in all at once and also graph all of your answer choices. And whichever answer choice is the same exact thing as your original, that's your answer. Now this is going to be a lot to type in. So I'm going to show you a trick if the thing that you're typing in looks too complicated. The red one is what it looks like if you just start typing the division symbol, like using the slash button on your keyboard. There's the x plus 7 over x squared plus 4x minus 1. Then I hit the slash bar again, and it just made an even bigger division bar. So technically, that is the first thing divided by the second thing. But if that looks too weird, you can split it up and write it in function notation. So I wrote f of x equals the first thing. I wrote g of x equals the second thing. And then in another line, I wrote that I want to do f of x divided by g of x. And if I turn that on, it's the same thing as just typing it in with all the division signs. So the red one and the purple one are the same exact thing as the original problem. Now I need to graph my answer choices to see which one is the same. I can eliminate the answer choice 1 and the answer choice -1 because this is obviously not a straight line. This is still rational, so it's got to be between A or B. So let me check A. A was x plus 3 over x minus 3. And that works. See how it completely overlapped my original problem? If you want to double check, I mean, this is what B would look like. B was x minus 3 over x plus 3. And that clearly is not the same. I see a totally different graph. So the answer choice was A, x plus 3 over x minus 3. Because they completely overlapped graphs. Another trick is with piecewise functions. If your problem has f of x and a g of x, and then it wants you to like do f of 5 plus g of 3, you can use Desmos to evaluate functions. Now that I wrote what f of x equals, I can type in f of 12, for example, and it's going to tell me what I would get if I were to plug 12 in for x. So that's just a nice little trick. So you can use Desmos for a lot of things, anything that has to do with a f of x, a g of x, anywhere that you see that you're adding, subtracting, multiplying, or dividing with x's, and any problem where you see an equal sign. Desmos can probably help you out. So same thing with all these, like number 8, graph that, graph your answer choice. Whichever one makes the same exact graph as the answer. Most of you already know how to do sliders. We've done some of these problems already. But you know, if you type a letter while you're graphing, like this question 11, for example, you can click Add Slider. Let me get rid of those. So K, x minus 2 to the 4th power, add a slider for K, and then you can answer the question as K increases, what's happening to the graph? It's getting skinnier. So you kind of have to remember your vocabulary a little bit, but it's obviously not A or B. So even if you forgot how to answer C and D, now you at least have a 50-50 shot of getting the answer versus just making a random guess. Again, question 12, I see f of x. You don't have to remember too much about these, but all real numbers means negative infinity to positive infinity. So graph them. There's only one graph out of these that doesn't go from negative infinity straight to positive infinity. Question 13, we have not talked about circles, but you can type this into Desmos and it will graph a circle. That's the equation of a circle. X squared plus y squared minus 4x minus 4y plus 4. You don't need the equals 0 part. A circle has to say equals 0 like that. If it didn't, like if that said 8, then I would want a minus 8 on both sides before I could really type it into Desmos. But x squared plus y squared minus 4x minus 4y plus 4. Oh, maybe I have to put the equal 0 part. Equal 0, there it is. Ooh, let me zoom back in. So now I can see, I mean, it doesn't graph the center of the circle, but I can see that is the center of my circle. And then, so that's at 2. So from 2 to 4, that's 2 units. So my radius is 2. So now I can answer that question. Same thing with transformations. I can graph f of x, and then I can graph all of my answer choices and see which one does the thing that I want it to do. Question 15, it's asking me which function has a point of discontinuity, that means a break. Which one has a break in the graph when x is 3? All right, forget about trying to graph option A. That's a really challenging thing to graph in Desmos. You can easily graph B, C, and D. Well, if you get an answer out of those, then that's the answer. If B, C, and D look like negative infinity to positive infinity, then you don't even have to graph A. A is obviously the answer because all the other ones checked out. But if you graph B, C, and D, and you see that there's a break in the graph at 3, then that's your answer. All right, inverses, the x and the y have to switch. So if you did this on your calculator, you could look in the table. But you are also looking for a line of symmetry when you have inverses. So I can do this one with you. I know which one is the answer because I remember how to convert the log. So I'm only going to graph 2. I'm going to graph the one that's the answer choice, and then I'm just going to graph one that's not the answer choice. All right, so there's my original. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. If I pick the one that's the inverse, this will be a line of symmetry. So here was one of the answer choices, log x minus 4, and then that whole thing over 1.5. So that does not look symmetric at all. So that one is probably not my answer choice. So let's look at this one. X minus 4 in the parentheses over log of 1.5. See how symmetric that looks? So that's the one that's my answer. So that's how Desmos can help you with inverses. That line y equals x is supposed to be a line of symmetry. It should look symmetric like a butterfly if you have the one that is the inverse. All right, hopefully that helped you. I do expect that just about everybody does this if they didn't do it already, just because I've done most of those for you. So that would be an easy 100 once you turn that in. All right, guys, please keep emailing me to let me know what other questions you have.